What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Heroes. Now that's right, this deck had technically since the last time I updated got some new support from the Battles of Legend in the form of like a Wing Karibo-esque card, and that's definitely gone straight into the deck. Now the one thing that I'm a little bit disappointed about with Heroes is they still take up so much space in an entire 40 card main deck, and then they don't have their any own built negates. So quite like Salamangreats back in the day where literally they would lose to a Nibiru, Heroes still struggle to that point. However, going unanswered, this deck can be incredibly powerful, very consistent, and can help you go first or second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the entire profile, show you what we've updated, show you what you might be changed, and talk you through each individual card so you know exactly what you're going to be looking for, whether you're going to be new to the deck or whether you're looking to kind of update it in the new format. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So starting off with your starters and the elemental heroes. So your main starter of the deck will of course be elemental hero Stratos. Now the ideal starter will be a hero lives, as that is going to give you direct access to your Stratos as well. So technically you have 5 copies of this card. Now more times than not, what Stratos is going to be doing is going to be searching you out any hero monster from your deck on summon. It does have an additional effect that it lets you destroy spells and traps up to the number of other hero monsters you control, which sometimes does come into play depending on what else you have in your hand. For your other elemental hero monsters, we do play 2 Shadow Mist. Now this is the one on special summon. It lets you add a change quick play, which in this build will be Mask Change 1, which basically turns this into Darklaw, is your main goal. But more times than not, what you're probably going to be doing is when it is sent to the graveyard, you get to add a hero monster from the deck to the hand. So again, it lets you search out anything you need. And ideally, either you're going to Shadow Mist into Stratos, so you get access to your starter, or of course you'll go Shadow Mist into some of your Vision heroes in the form of your Vision hero Faris, if your Stratos was stopped. For the other elemental hero cards, I do still like to play the one Liquid Soldier. So this gives you the ability to either normal summon and then revive a level 4 or lower hero from the graveyard, or you get the ability when it's used for fusion material to draw 2 and discard 1. That's the effect you're probably going to be using more times than not, as like I've said, your main normal summon you're probably going to want to be Stratos, and it kind of takes you a lot more if you're going to be going special summon Stratos for hero live, search out elemental hero Liquid Soldier at some point, get Stratos into the graveyard, summon back and go again. Now that might change if we get a Link 1 hero. Please Konami, make it slightly useful as well, but that is just entirely down to you at this moment in time. Now what is down to you is whether you include the next card or not. I personally still like it because it's one of them cards that if I do see it and my opponent doesn't know I have it, or even if I do search it and my opponent forgets that I have it, it can actually be game changing. It can also be a game winner going second as well for your OTK capabilities, and that is the elemental hero Honest Neos. Now like I said, you don't have to play this. If you want to try and fit in more hand traps, more board breakers, it's entirely up to you. You can cut this out very easily. I just quite like having it as an involvement of this deck. We are also playing the one original elemental hero Neos. This is needed for your fusion plays and going through favourite contact, which has been confirmed to be in the Megatins of 2024. So just wait on this one. I wouldn't dive into buying this just yet because this will probably get a secret rare upgrade, but that is the whole idea behind it. And then we are playing the one brand new Winged Karibo level 6. So for those of you new to this card and aren't familiar with it, it is always treated as an elemental hero monster and a favourite card. So the only downside of it is the fact that it's a fairy, not a warrior, which is quite important for some of your cards because some of your Link monsters will require 2 warriors. So keep that in mind. But more times than not, you're going to be leaving this on the board. It cannot be normal summon or set, and it must be special summon from the hand or graveyard by banishing an elemental hero fusion monster or a Winged Karibo from your hand, face up field, or graveyard. You can only special summon Winged Karibo level 6 once per turn this way. When an opponent's monster declares an attack or your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you get a quick effect to tribute this card to destroy that one monster, and if you do, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. So it's a form of interruption. It's not as effective as I would have liked it to be. I would have loved this to have been if your opponent activates a monster effect anywhere, then tribute this off and then negate. I don't even really care about the burn effect, but obviously the whole burn effect is the fact that it utilises Flame Wingman, which you can kind of see with the details in the artwork behind it, which I think is absolutely amazing. I just feel that this could have been a little bit better. And then moving on to the Destiny Hero, so I say newly released back to free, but it's been back to free for technically a while now, and I'm hoping now because of just Heroes, it stays at free, and that is of course Destiny Hero Malicious. Now in Heroes, this is a blessing and a curse, and what we mean by that is you very rarely want to open it, but if you do open it up with a Vision Hero, you are in good stead because this will just constantly keep counting as an additional extender, and because we have this back at free, you technically get to use it 4 times when you're going to be utilising your Destiny Hero Denier. The only other Destiny hero that we main deck is Plasma. Now, arguably, you could side out the Plasma or not even main the Plasma. Again, if you wanted to use more kind of like main deck effective hand traps, which is entirely up to you. The only other Destiny hero that you'll want to consider playing is the Dark Angel. But again, because you could not guarantee to go first or second, putting Dark Angel in as your side deck option is probably more effective for you, whereas Plasma can still be useful going first or second, which is why it's technically main decked rather than just side decked. But you do have that option to side deck it if you want to, and of course you can play Destiny Draw, D hero, the spell card for your Plasma if you wanted to go down more of a control route. I'm going to see if I've got it. There we go. D-Force. So if you've got this to one side, you can of course use this instead or alongside the Plasma. But again, like I said, with particular builds of this deck, it takes up so much space in the main deck. You'll see that this is a 40 card deck and it only gives us 5 spaces to play with that are not hero related, because you do play Destiny heroes, Elemental heroes, Vision heroes. You play so much that kind of intertwines and plays with everything you need to, whether that be extenders from the graveyard, whether that just be resources for your fusion plays. It's very difficult to build a competitive version while only solely focusing on one particular card, which is going to be very interesting when we get the new evil heroes. But I feel that you could then build a different adaptation of the deck which does solely revolve around the evil heroes a lot more, and it will kind of give you a different playstyle for the deck. Moving on to the Vision heroes, we are playing triple Vision hero Faris. So this is obviously the ideal Vision hero you need, and this was such a great addition when we did receive it way back when. So this lets you discard any other hero monster to special on this card from the hand. And then if it is normal or special, you get to place a Vision hero monster from your deck, accept itself into the spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous trap. You are locked out of special summoning from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except hero, so keep that in mind. Now with Vision Hero Faris, there is a blessing and a curse, and the curse part of it, unfortunately, is the Vision Hero increase. Now, unfortunately, with, of course, your Faris will only allow you to put the Vision Hero from the deck into the spell and trap zone. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to kind of use it from the hand, which more times than not, if you're playing this deck and you've played this deck long enough, you will always see a Vision Hero increase in your hand, which is why you go back to the good old-fashioned Garnet play, which means you need to play 2 of it. It's not ideal to have in your hand. It's probably the worst card to see in your entire hand, but it does happen, which is why you play 2 of it, because if you open up the only copy you have, your Faris combo kind of dies a little bit, because the only other Vision hero you put into the spell and trap zone doesn't have the ability of increase, which allows it to tribute off a hero monster and then summon itself out and then summon another Vision hero from the deck. That's going to be your Vion, which can of course also be another starter, because Vion on normal or special allows you to send a hero monster from the deck to the grave, which is how you're going to be able to get a Mali directly from the deck to the grave. Or if you've been able to special summon this out by another mean, it will also give you the ability to send a Shadow Mist and then of course lead you into a Searcher or lead you into an Extender. It also has a great secondary effect to banish a hero from the graveyard to add a poly from the deck to the hand, and that will then just allow you to get into more of your other fusion monsters. Moving on to the spells, of course, you are going to be playing triple A Hero Lives. This basically counts as additional copies of any of your elemental hero monsters, specifically level 4 or lower, and specifically only elemental hero monsters. But the idea is this is going to get you your Stratos, and then Stratos pretty much gets you to anything else. It does cost you half your life points, so that is something you do need to be a little bit careful of, especially when going into game 3. Then, of course, speaking about the Marsh Change card, this is another one that I have seen people cut down to 2 if you wish. I do quite like the idea of hard opening this, because what it gives you the ability for is it gives you the ability to dodge stuff like Imperms or Veilers on stuff like your Stratos, but it also allows you to dodge stuff or even turn your Shadow Mist, should you have to normal summon it, into a Dark Lord turn 0, and this then gives you the ability to extend a little bit further, because then your Shadow Mist can then get you into your Extender. So it does give you a lot to kind of work with. It just depends on what type of scenario you're in, but arguably if you wanted to cut it down to 2, again, you've got a few flex spots in the main deck, which does allow you to play other hand traps or board breakers, or just general utility cards for the deck. Another one of your amazing starters, but it does have a bit of a downside as it will lock you into Dark Heroes, is of course Fusion Destiny. Now, as you saw, we play 5 Destiny heroes, and the idea is you're going to want to be going into your Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer more times than not, as this gives you the ability that should you get hit with a Nibiru, you still have ways to kind of play around it a little bit more than it did so in the past. So this one lets you fusion summon a fusion monster from the extra deck that mentions a Destiny hero monster as material, using monsters from your hand, deck, or deck as fusion material. But you get to destroy it during the end phase of the next turn, which is why it's best with your Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, because Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer will destroy itself and then kind of get out of that little clause that it has. It does lock you into special summoning monsters except Dark Hero monsters, which is really, really kind of important with some of the other cards you're going to be playing around with. And then you play a lot of one-off power spells. So the one-off power spells we play is Foolish Burial. So ideally your ideal targets off the back of this will be your Shadow Mist, which searches you out a starter, or of course it can be a Malicious if you need that extender. You've got the one poly that you're going to search off of your increase, off of your Vion. You've got the one Called by the Grave to try and protect you from as many pesky hand traps as possible. Reinforcement of the Army because it technically acts as a 4th copy of your Stratos if you want. And then of course the one Miracle Fusion that you will search off your Sunrise as you're making your plays. The final track card that we play for the hero cards is of course Favourite Contact, and like I said, don't be running to the stores to be picking this up at about £10 to £15 a copy, as it will be in the Megatins. The final 5 slots are completely flexible, whether you want to be using them as board breakers, and like you've already discussed, if you wanted to increase your Stratoses to 3, you would take up one of these spaces. If you wanted to put in D-Force, you would take up one of the spaces, or of course you'd mess around with some of the ratios of the cards that I've previously mentioned, stuff like your Mask Change and everything else. So I kind of went with the best cards that could go first or second, because if you go all first and you end up going second, you're at a disadvantage. And if you go second but use all first cards, you're at a disadvantage. So these are the best cards that could be utilised going first or second in the form of Infinite Impermanence and Forbidden Droplet, in my opinion. Now you do have loads of targets you can send with Forbidden Droplet, so in this particular scenario, Droplet is still a utilised card. And then of course Imperm is just that insanely powerful card that does not trigger talents, and it gives you that ability to go first or second with it. Unfortunately, you can't use any of the Dominus Purge cards in here because you do bounce around between lights and darks and winds and everything else in between. So you basically just use 5 utility cards if you want to keep it at a flat 40 card deck. Obviously, I completely understand that there are some builds with heroes that you will bump up to like a 42 card deck. Heck, there might even be versions that you bump up to 45, which might be a little bit more beneficial for you, as it will allow you to bury certain garnets in the form of Malicious and of course your increase, but that's entirely down to personal preference. And if you do that, that's probably where you're going to want to make sure that you increase your consistency of either board breaking cards or just interactive cards in general, and that's where we're probably going to be looking at stuff like Ash Blossoms, maybe Drawing Lot Birds, or just a card that is prominent in the format, maybe something like Nibiru. So moving on to the extra deck, we'll start off with our Elemental Hero monsters. So you start off with Wake Up Your Elemental Hero. This is your now ideal boss monster. So this requires an Elemental Hero fusion monster and a warrior monster, and it must be fusion summoned. It gains 300 attack for each material used for its fusion summon, and the fact of the matter is, because it's an Elemental Hero, you can use Miracle Fusion and technically banish your entire graveyard, well, all warriors that is, to give this as much of an attack stat buff as you need. It then gets the ability to make a number of attacks on monsters during each battle phase, up to the number of fusion monsters used as its material. So your opponent has a full board of monsters and you use 5 materials, you get to attack 5 times with the attack stack buff. On top of that, after damage calculation, if it battles a monster, you destroy that monster. So even if they put it in defense, you're going to get a bonus. And then if you do, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. If this fusion summon card is destroyed, you get to special summon a warrior monster from the hand or deck, and that's how you play around Nibiru, as you'll have the ability of usually getting into this with a DPE. Your opponent attempts to Nibiru you go, okay, cool, DP effect, destroy itself, destroy, wake up your elemental hero. They then give you Nibiru, and then on the new resolution, your DPE will resolve, and then you resolve the elemental hero, which then gets you Shadow Mist. Shadow Mist will then get you a Mask Change if you haven't already used Shadow Mist effect, and then that will allow you to at least add a Dark Lord to the end board. You'll have the Nibiru token, and then you'll have Destroy a Phoenix Enforcer coming back as well. You've then of course got your Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, so this is obviously ideal for being able to destroy all of your opponent's monsters when it leaves the field. And the other card that you can play to make this a very easily applied effect is you can play Masked Hero Acid, because that will let you use Mask Change to turn 0 into Acid, which will then deal with your opponent's front row and back row, and you do have a bit more flexibility in the extra deck should you wish. Carrying on, we also play the one Elemental Hero Flame Wingman Infernal Rage. Absolutely love the artwork on this card. Like, you've got Skyscraper in the background, you've got the lovely moon, and then of course you've got your Flame Wingman with a nice little bit of an upgrade. And this is how you're going to be able to get into your favourite contact. And that's how it kind of helps you utilise being able to get into your Elemental Hero Shining in Neos Wingman. Now this is also a card that has been confirmed for the Megatins of 2024, which is only a couple of weeks away. So again, don't go running out to pay huge amounts of money on this card. Just wait, get it in the tins, and you'll still be able to utilise it in the deck. You've of course got your Elemental Hero Sunrise. So as you've noticed already, all of these are different attributes, which is why Fusion Destiny can be a little bit tricky if you have to resolve it as your first card. But there are ways to play this deck around without needing to go into the lights and darks. So Sunrise is a very good aggressive option, but it's also a way that you search out your Miracle Fusion in order to get into your Absolute Zero. So you can kind of see how one leads into the other, and you have ways of using your Infernal Rage to cheat out your Sunrise. So you're getting everything you need from that one particular combo route. And then your Destiny heroes, we've got the one Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer. Pretty much already mentioned this guy enough. And then I do still like the Dystopia option. You don't have to play this, but it does give you another Destiny Hero Fusion option, because more times than not with Fusion Destiny is that's one of your last chance saloon cards. You're going to try and get into DPE using Polymerization and everything else before that, but then you still have that ability of using Fusion Destiny to get into a Dystopia. You just need to keep in mind that this one will require specifically 2 Destiny heroes, whereas this requires a Destiny hero plus a level 6 or higher hero, which means that this will need 2 Destiny hero monsters in the main deck left in order to fusion summon, which can be a little bit tricky because the idea is, again, you're going to burn through all of your Destiny heroes, mainly your Denier and your Mallees, so the only thing that's going to be left is your Plasma, and if you're going first, you're going to want to try and search out said Plasma to summon it down as a technical one-sided skill drain. For your Masked Heroes, we've got the one Blast. This is purely in here to dodge imperm or targeted effects on your Stratos to turn it into Blast. It does give you that ability to have a nice little bit of an ability to pay life points to deal with back row as well. So it don't kind of, it's okay, but it's morely there just to dodge your targeted effects. And then the classic Mac Daddy in the form of Masked Hero Darklaw. Shadow Mist into this, Mali into this, everything you need to into this. The idea is that all of your opponent's cards are banished instead of going to the graveyard, and then if they add a card from their deck to the hand, except during the draw phase or damage step, you get to banish one random card from your opponent's hand. So nice way of being able to hand rip, but also being able to kind of just make sure nothing hits their graveyard, which can be massively damaging in the right matchup. For the extra deck, we've gone with 2 extra hero Cross Crusaders. Again, this is one of your flex cards. You could cut it down to 1 if you wanted to be a little bit tighter on space. But the idea is this is your ideal one, and this is the one that specifically needs 2 warriors, which is really important because your other link 2 is your Infernal Devicer, which, as you saw, all of your other monsters are warriors, whereas this one is a fiend, alongside with the Winged Karibo level 6 in the main deck as well. So they're the only cards you can't use to make this, which is why more times than not, you'll probably see that you'll be using this to make this, or if you do go into this, you have to go into a Wonder Driver first before you can then make your Cross Crusader. So there's a lot of bouncing around between different link 2s in order to get everything you need to, but your Infernal Devicer is basically in here to search you out your elemental hero Neos, and that's how you're going to be able to then push and utilize further forward to get into your elemental hero Flame Wingman using the Neos in order to get you the maximum advantage, so that cards like your Shining Neos Wingman cannot be spun back into the deck. And then the final card we play is the Dread Decimator. I just still like the idea that this can give all of my heroes that it points to a attack buff, and then when you've got DPE on the board as well, that's going to give your opponent a attack stat modulation as well. You're kind of in a very good position. On top of that as well is if this card attacks defense position, you get to inflict piercing damage. I would love this to have given all of the cards it points to piercing damage as well, but then heroes would be probably too good. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much it for the Elemental Hero deck. Now, I'm pretty sure you can actually build this deck in Master Duel as well, so it does use double usage, which is really kind of cool. Not that it's easy to build certain decks in Master Duel, because, you know, you don't want to be paying to play in that game, unless you want to grind it and sweat it out, which is entirely up to you. But Elemental Heroes is still one of my favourite decks. I call it an Elemental Hero, but it's not an Elemental Hero deck. It is generally just a hero deck, which is why I title it as a hero deck, because technically it's not one hero or the other. It's a very nice balanced mix of, not all of them, but some of them. So I really do enjoy the deck. I have done a must-know combo video on all of the heroes, and I will post that out or like link it in the description below so you know exactly where to go to see how the deck operates and the other kind of combos you might want to look for. This is just one of them core anime-esque style decks. It will always get support in the future. The only issue is there are so many different versions of it right now that I would really like Konami to get to a point where you can play an Elemental Hero deck, a Destiny Hero deck, and still be as competitively viable as you do when you play a hero deck, which is a mishmash of all of them. But right now, it looks like your Elemental Heroes are kind of like what they are in the anime, your starters, your extenders, what you need. And then you've got your Destiny Heroes, which is like your darker, your stronger elements of the deck. You've got your Masked Heroes from the extra deck. You've got everything else in between. And then, of course, you've got your Vision Heroes, which try to tie everything together to get you the polys to make the fusion summoning more consistent than it needs to be. And then, of course, you've got the Evil Heroes, which is just completely badass. The artwork's amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens when we get those. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I hope it's given you a nice little breakdown on the deck in general. Whether you're looking to copy this entire deck and then test it out and see where you go from there. But the idea is it's just going to kind of give you a baseline for you to work off the back of. And then it comes down to personal adaptation and trial and error depending on what works for you, what works in your local environment, in order to adapt it and then kind of give it the best outcome you could possibly go with. Especially when you're looking at stuff like Super Poly as well, could really, really help the deck out depending on what your environment's like and what you want to utilize with it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. As always, any questions, comments down below. Be more than happy to answer them. But for now, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.